You know, this is it. This is the genuine bee talks. There's other imitators, but of course, this is it. You're at the genuine bee talks. We have two of our board members with us, Jose Salinas, who you know, and Paul Zielinski. He's our member at large, and he's going to be taking a more active role in communicating with you folks. He sent out 800 emails 2 days ago to try to stimulate some response from folks who are having some problems with their membership. And so he's a wonderful resource for us, as Jose, you already know, is. So our board's coming together as a really interesting board. We have almost 700 members in CBA at this point, which is an all-time record. We usually ended up leveling out around 350 in all years past. So we think we're doing something right. We think that beekeepers in Connecticut are responding to us, and we're going to keep doing it that way. So we hope to grow to however large we grow. So, and we hope to provide you with wonderful content, great instructions, and we want to have some fun with beekeeping. It's not like, you know, we're not going to always be talking about varroa and diseases. We're going to be talking like we are tonight about swarm season. And we're going to open. Jose, did we decide whether or not we want to open with questions from beginners or?
Well, let me just say, you know, the last time we had this, I got some feedback from folks who, from a couple of people, really only two, suggesting that we have the beginning of the session where we asked the new beekeepers to ask questions. So for the first 20 minutes, just those folks who are just starting out to ask questions. And the suggestion was to have those folks ask the questions at the end so that the more seasoned beekeepers wouldn't sit through those fundamental questions. I actually think that, you know, the experienced beekeepers ought to participate in that because they have some things to share. They have some things to contribute because it's, yeah, you know, we all think this is Bill's show, but
not Bill's show. This isn't Bill's show.
Folks can contribute. You know, we have some fantastic members with lots of experience, and they can also contribute. And in fact, some new folks, I think, because they have the mentality of being new, second year, third year, can really add some nice, just fill in some nice things. And so what I would like to do is have this session again with just the first 20 minutes or so, just for new folks to ask questions. And if it doesn't work out, please send me your suggestions again to say that this is not working and that you would like to have it at the end, and then we could do that, because this is really your talk for you. We try to cater to folks, to members as best we can. And so if folks want to wait till the end, then we can do that. It really does not matter much to Bill or to me.
Okay. Why don't you follow that chat then, Jose or Paul? And Paul, anything you want to lead off with? Are you good? Okay, great. All right. So if we're going to open up the chat with questions from new folks, have a look at it. I think there's some new folk questions in there. So,
right. So we have a couple of new folks asking when would they do the first inspection after installing a nuke?
After installing a nuke?
Yep.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I mean, a nucleus colony, for everybody for new beekeepers who don't know what that is, that's a colony that usually comes from as a laying colony. So that's a colony that's established, usually has a queen that's out on the comb laying. Hopefully it does. It usually has a couple frames of brood, maybe a honey frame. And so it's an established colony, a nucleus colony. And then in that colony, we usually install them right in the middle of a deep box and put foundation on either side of them, or drawn comb, or whatever it is that you do to complete that box. So that's the installation. Different than a package where you're dumping bees on foundation. It's just, it's a working colony. And so that colony, when I install nucleus colonies, I look at them. So that's the inspection I do. Right as soon as I make sure the queen is laying, I make sure that she's, that there's brood and that she's, everything is fine. So that's the advantage you have with a nuke. As soon as you install it, you just take out each frame and look at it. So if you didn't do that, then go ahead back in there, give them about 6 days and go back in there and do it. Go back in and look at it.
And how long would you leave the entrance reducer on?
So, in our climate, I don't really know much about, I don't know how to answer that question. There's entrance reducers, all kinds of different entrance reducers. There's wooden ones. The ones I use are wooden, and they have a 1-inch opening and they have a 3-inch opening. I run that 3-inch opening all year round, including all winter time. I never take it off. Bees need about an inch and an inch and a half opening, about, so it turns out to be, if you think about an inch and a half circle and you squash that down into a square opening, that would be about a 3-inch opening at 3/4 of an inch or a little bit less. So I run that all the time. I never take it off. And there's no reason to take it off, actually. When I put a new package in, and if I'm putting a package in with established packages or an established apiary, I'll run a 1-inch opening in the beginning for a couple of weeks until I know the queen is out on the comb, laying, and everything is okay with that colony, because I don't want them to get robbed or messed around with by the other colonies I have in that yard. But if so, sometimes we do that with a brand new colony. If we're using wood entrance reducers now. So if you're using those metal entrance reducers, take them off and put a wood entrance reducer in, because the metal entrance reducers, everyone I see strips pollen off of bees, and I don't like them. So I would suggest you consider not using the metal ones and go back to the old-fashioned wood ones that come and you use in the front. All right, so what else we got?
Well, I would take this opportunity to encourage the new beekeepers to just speak up and ask your own questions.
Yeah.
There's no sense in having me just read what you wrote.
I have a
In
question.
many instances, Bill is going to want to follow up to your question, because we may not understand quite fully what you're asking. So do not
Sure.
hesitate, just
Okay.
ask your questions.
Okay, but before we do that, I want to make an announcement. Dean is doing his wonderful searches again, so keep looking at Dean's posts in the chat, because if I'm talking about a subject, he's in the background there doing research, and he's posting up links so you can go get further information. So thank you so much, Dean. Keep that up, please. All right. Yes, questions?
Hey, I have a question.
Sure.
Okay, my name is Bill. I know Mallory is up there. That's my wife. I lost my bees last year. We had a discussion on this. Nobody knows why. I did everything right. You and I had a discussion about this during one of the meetings, and I bought a new 8-pound package of bees. I bought them from Adam Fuller, who's a very good beekeeper, one of the best in the state. Okay, so I have the bees, and I took all the resources that I had last year and I added them to the hive: honey, drawn comb, and all that. The bees look really, really well right now. They look really healthy. There's many of them, a lot of capped brood. There's pollen coming in. My question is, can I add a honey super now?
How long have you when did you put this package in?
The 9th of April.
No.
No?
No, you probably, in 10 weeks from now, that package will be up to full strength. So put a mark on your calendar. 10 weeks from now, you'll have a working hive.
10 weeks
And
from the 9th of April?
From the 9th of April, right?
Okay.
All right, and so at that point, so what is your goal? To get honey out of them?
Well, I want honey. Of course, I want a healthy hive, but yes, I want honey.
Yeah, you're not going to, probably won't get it this year, Bill.
Okay.
So, all right, so your goal now is to make sure that you have a healthy hive.
Okay,
And
my
you-
next question is, can I do a split?
Well, no,
Okay.
you don't even have a working colony at this point, Bill. So you wouldn't, if you split it at this point, and why would you want to split it?
Well, I was thinking that because I lost the hive last year, is because maybe there were too many bees because the hive was so built
Okay,
up.
Bill, forget about that theory. There's no such thing as a colony with too many bees. They build to the exact level that they're capable of building to in biologically. You're not in control of any of that. Right? So that's just something that occurs naturally in the colony. So there's never a colony with too many bees, because if there is, they'll swarm. And usually, it's very rare for a package to swarm the first year. So I don't think you have to be concerned about that. But what you can do about 10 weeks out from now is you can start looking at that colony and making sure, before 10 weeks, by the way, somewhere around 4 weeks, you're going to have to add another box.
Okay.
All right. And then you'll see how, then the queen will start going up there and laying and so on and so forth. So, yeah. So yeah, you got to follow the bees. Don't try to manipulate them in any way, because you're thinking, and you have to read about the biology of bees also, Bill, because your ideas are, I don't know where you're forming them from, but you have to have some basis for that. So the first job of a new beekeeper is to learn the biology of what's occurring in the colony. And for that, I recommend that you get Mark Winston's book, Biology of the Honeybee, and read it. Right. And that book will bring you through everything that you need to know. It's really well written. He's a great author, and it'll bring you through everything you need to know. And then you won't be, so you have to be familiar with the biology before you can start making manipulations in the colony.
Okay, one more question. When should I start with the varroa mite treatment? I ordered mite away quick strips, and they haven't come in yet. But when should I start that?
Well, see, okay, so I want you to start like thinking, and this is for all new beekeepers, is to move away from thinking about your interaction with your colonies as if it were a formula. Like, on this day I do this thing, on this day I do something else, on the first of something I do something else. What you have to make sure is you follow the bees. Your job is to observe what's occurring in the colony and then act accordingly. So you follow their leads. So it's not formulaic at all. So you have to measure. And what I suggest you do is put in some drop boards under that colony, or put a sticky board under that colony, and look for the varroa that drop on that board and start counting them and get an idea if you have any kind of a infestation at all.
So I shouldn't start the varroa mite treatment now? And I talked to you last fall, and you had said that possibly the reason why my hive swarmed because I wasn't aggressive enough with the varroa.
Swarmed?
Yeah, they took off. They swarmed. I think they swarmed.
All right, so we can't work with that though, Bill. We can't work with you think they swarmed or they took off. We can't figure anything out with that. So what I'm suggesting you do is you measure, look and search on what a sticky board is, or you can do an alcohol roll in, not now, but in 3 or 4 weeks, you can do an alcohol roll and figure out if you have a mite count that requires some kind of treatment.
Yeah, okay, I did purchase that. It's on back order, but I got the varroa, the kit for checking that for the alcohol. So I'll do that.
Okay, good. Let's move on.
Thank you.
Hi,
What
Bill.
else do we, yeah,
This is Tori. I have a question. So I performed my first split on Sunday.
yes.
And so
Congratulations.
yeah. Well, let's wait and see what happens. But I think it went okay. So I moved my queen. I had capped queen cells, so I think I hopefully got in there in the nick of time. So my
Well, you
question,
have, well done. Well, you have the queen, right? You moved your queen.
yes, I moved the queen.
All
Yep.
right. So, yeah. So,
And it-
okay. So you got in there.
Yes, right. And so I moved her. So my question is, I did that on Sunday. When can I go in and check on the old queen and see how things are going? And then when can I go in and check on the hive that I kept with the queen cells?
All right. So you made a split. So explain how you made the split to us.
Okay. So it was my second year, overwintered the hive, 2 deeps. I went in, I found the queen,
Yes.
I moved her to a new box,
Okay. A nuke box or a full-size colony?
10 deep, 10 frame deep.
Okay.
I put in 2 frames of brood,
What kind of brood?
all capped brood, eggs, larva.
Okay.
I do a little bit of both, and then 3 frames of pollen and honey, like stores, and then the rest I filled in with foundation.
Foundation. Now, did you shake any other bees in that colony? You did.
Yes, I shook 2 frames of nurse bee. Well, I'm hoping. I found 2 more frames of brood and then shook in those bees into that box as well.
Yeah. Okay. So the ones that stay in there are nurse bees, and there's probably going to be a lot. So for the news beekeepers that are thinking about making a split for the first time, that's the way you do it. The way Tori just described it is the exact right way to do it. I think I would have probably not put as much capped brood in that colony. I mean, open brood in that colony as capped. I would always lean toward more capped brood in there. And then she put the queen in that colony. So now that's a small colony, and that's going to have to build. But her other colony is big, and it has all the swarm cells in it. Right. So now the question is whether or not they can't swarm because they don't have a queen. So now those swarm cells then will become the new queen. One of them will become the new queen in that colony. And so what you're going to leave the nuke that you made alone.
Okay.
Because you know that, leave that alone for a while. Let that thing settle down.
Like for a couple weeks?
Well, yeah, that would be fine for a couple of weeks. Now,
Okay.
did you, so you never handled the queen when you put her in the nuke box, right? You never touched her.
No, she was on the frame.
You took the frame over and put it in there.
Yeah.
Okay, so you didn't, there's no question. Hopefully you didn't roll the queen, but I doubt you did.
I know.
So she's in there and that's fine. Your other colony, you have to leave that one alone now.
Right.
Were any of those swarm cells capped?
Yes.
All right, so yeah, you just caught her. And also the old mythology about, well, the colony always swarms after the swarm cells are capped is not really true.
Okay.
That occurs sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't. So in that colony, you've got, let's say, 7 days before there's a virgin queens begin to emerge on there because you had some capped cells. So now you've got another like between 8 and 14 days before you see eggs in that colony, or you have a queen right colony. So you're going to have to watch them. You got an 80% chance at this point that they'll make a queen in that other colony for you. And so it's not 100%, right? It's 80%. So if you don't see evidence of eggs in that colony in a couple of weeks, then you're going to put a frame of eggs from your nuke.
Oh, okay.
With minus the queen, you leave her in the nuke colony.
Right.
And you're going to give them a frame of eggs. But we'll cross that road when we get there.
Okay.
Right. So you got some time. And when a colony's trying to make a new queen, leave them alone.
Okay.
All right. Because, you can do things then that don't change any configuration on the colony. She has to come out for orientation flights. The virgin does. There's going to be a little fitness contest between all the virgins that emerge in that colony. So lots of things are going on from a biological standpoint. Your other colony, get in there and look at that. And like I said, in a couple of weeks, and I hope I said that, in a couple of weeks, to make sure that, she's still okay and laying and doing well. Your other colony, you might have to feed that nuke.
Yeah, I am feeding it. I haven't noticed a ton of activity on the outside, but I was thinking, is that because there's mostly nurse bees?
That's because there's mostly nurse bees. And that's why I'm suggesting to you, next time you do this, lean heavily on aged cat brood,
Okay.
because then you get a field force quicker.
Okay.
All right. There's other manipulations you can do. And after you've been a successful beekeeper for 3 or 4 years, we'll start talking about them.
Okay.
But right now, just leave it alone.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Hi, Bill. This is Teresa. I just have a question about a couple of frames I pulled out of the freezer. They were unkept honey. I took out of the super that I took off last fall.
Yeah.
And I have a new nuke that I got from Ted Jones on Sunday. I got them installed, and they're very strong and healthy looking colony. They went to work right away. They're pulling in tons of pollen. It looks like mostly from our red maple trees. But I put those out the other day in thinking they would clean them up, but I haven't seen a single bee attracted to them. Is there maybe something wrong with it? Should I just get rid of them?
Well, so wait, what was that? You're saying that you put those frames in that were
I did put
frozen?
them in. I set them on the other end of the yard for them to just, get to be able to clean them out.
Yeah, well, so that's not really what you should be doing.
Oh, okay. Well, last year I thought that's what I was supposed to be doing.
No, that's that. So I discourage all new beekeepers, especially, but all beekeepers in general. Now there's, if you're a really experienced beekeeper and you think you can open feed with no consequences, that's on you. But for new beekeepers, I want to make sure that you always keep your yard very clean and no sources of pollen, maybe the exception, that you can feed out in a tube. But for your old frames and stuff, not a good idea to let them out in the yard. Lots of things can happen, by the way. You can attract bears. You can do lots of things by leaving open food in your yard. So put those frames inside the colony. You got room for them in there?
I don't have a super on yet, so. they're just-
These are mediums.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay, yeah.
They weren't kept and they're messy.
Yeah.
They're just
Yeah.
running off of it. So I froze them. I wrapped them in plastic bags and froze them last
Yeah,
year.
well, you can put them in that deep. So what'll happen,
Okay.
you can put them in that deep, and what will happen is the bees will draw, my guess is the bees will draw drone comb on the bottom of those frames. And then you'll have, all right, and then you'll have an automatic drone trap for Varroa. All right, so if you watch them, they'll draw out drone comb, and then you can harvest that drone comb. And in the meantime, they'll take care of that liquid. That's probably nectar. Maybe it's honey. Who knows? They just didn't get around to capping it on those.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
So
All right.
that's a little trick you can do.
All right. I will try that. So
Okay.
if they put drone comb, there's drone comb on that frame, then I take that out and I freeze it to kill the drone in case there's Varroa. Is that the
Yeah, well,
point?
what I'm suggesting you do is use them as a drone trap. Yeah.
Yeah.
Harvest it after. So you're gonna have to keep track of this now. When you put them in
Right.
there, you keep notes and keep a date on it. And then you got to go back in there, make sure that they're drawing comb on the bottom of those frames. And
Right.
then keep track of when all that drone comb that they draw out is capped. And then you take them out after that. But
Okay.
you do not allow them to emerge.
Right. Right. Okay. All right. I will try that. Thank you.
That's kind of an interesting drone trap.
Hey, Bill, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
This is Bill. I'm Bill also. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Oh, okay, sorry.
gotcha.
Okay, I'm obviously new. This is my second year of doing it. Last year, I've been using a horizontal hive, which I had last year, which holds 28 frames. And well, I was told they absconded in very late fall, because I got video of these guys on November 5th, and they were like on fire in that hive. Anyway, long story short, they left, and I ended up getting, this year I'm gonna have 2 hives. I have a vertical one, which I didn't use because of my back, but I'm going back to it. So I have the horizontal, I got the vertical. I put 2 new packages in as of April 24th. The one package, my bottom line is that the vertical one, I had to go get a new queen because they never released the queen out of the box, out of the vertical one. So I had to get a new queen. They gave me I don't know if I got it right. Sassafras queen.
Saskatraz.
That's it. Okay. Long story short, I've been going in there to check for eggs and stuff. I see eggs, and the thing is, from last year, the 28 things are all drawn comb, and I was told I could use these combs as head start in these hives. Don't go with just basic combs. They said, put those combs back in the hive, put these new bees in there, and they're going to have a head start building. So the vertical one has some drawn comb.
When you say vertical, tell me what you mean by vertical.
Up and down.
Well, yeah, no, I know the definition of the word.
Yeah. Well, the two store.
I'm asking about what kind of a colony is it? Is it a Langstroth colony or is it a?
Oh, Langstroth, yeah, they're Langstroth. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Langstroth hives. I'm sorry, and so is the horizontals. It's a double wide Langstroth hive.
Yes. Okay.
I use the same.
It takes Langstroth frames. Yeah.
Okay. So anyway,
frames,
long story short, the vertical one went in, saw eggs, and like I said, the combs on these things are very dark, as you know. And I mean, they're really like dark. It's like looking into a cave, trying to look inside. But I've been able to see the vertical one. I could see eggs, and I'm starting to see some larvae. The horizontal one, what did release her queen originally before, I cannot see any eggs anywhere in the comb. They're running around like crazy, but I'm seeing larvae in there. I mean, I'm checking every frame. It's like I'm feeding them this syrup. So I'm assuming there's syrup in these holes, because you look in and all you see is a reflection of either nectar or syrup. But I see them going down there and they're poking around, and I cannot see any eggs anywhere, but I see larvae. Should I be worried?
So that was actually your question then?
Yeah, that's basically it.
You don't see any.
Yeah, the one hive.
You don't see any eggs in the Langstroth frames.
Yeah, in the horizontal one. Yeah. And I can't, because the comb is so dark.
Hold on.
Yeah.
I thought it was the Langstroth hive. You didn't see eggs in the.
Well, they're both Langstroth hives.
No, they're not. One's a horizontal hive. The other one's a Langstroth.
Yeah, but I use the same. It's the same frames as a Langstroth.
The frames are not called Langstroth frames. They're called Hoffman frames.
Well,
How about that? How about that for a little?
Well, that's good. I know.
Useless bee knowledge. So
anyway, I cannot see because of the discoloration of these.
Don't give me any excuses, Bill, about the discoloration of the frames. That's not why you can't see them.
Why can't I see them then?
You can't see them because you didn't do what I said. You got to go in there and take a photograph of those frames where the queen is. You didn't see.
No,
the queen.
I haven't seen the queen. See, I'm not good at spotting the queen. I'm still so new at that.
Yeah,
like I said, that's the problem.
You don't really need to see her. All you really need to see is eggs.
Yeah. So, what about if there's larvae?
Well, if there's larva or larvae, yeah, you're fine.
Okay, well, that was my question, because I said I'm looking and I'm poking, and I said, the other one, which has the same discolored frames, I can see eggs in the darkness.
So I want you to lose in your vocabulary, discolored frames, because there's no such thing. I mean, brood combs get dark because of the cocoons that are in them.
Okay.
Right. So they're always, the darker they get, the easier it is to see eggs.
Okay. I wear glasses. I better get a better pair.
You got to get a better pair of glasses. Are you trying to do this with your veil on?
Yeah.
See,
yeah, I have the whole thing on.
It is very difficult to see eggs with a veil on, so once you get used to it, and if you have the light just right, then you can see them. I never look for eggs with the veil on.
Okay. But
So
assuming that there are larvae.
Yeah, there's larvae.
there.
You're probably, I'm
Yeah.
I'm going to give a pro
Yeah.
tip out now that I shouldn't say, but I'm going to say it anyway. So what I do is I keep my hood unzipped.
Yeah.
Right? If you keep your hood unzipped on your jacket, keep your jacket zipped up real good. You can pull your hood up and rest it on your forehead.
Okay,
It'll stay up there on your forehead. And then you can go take that frame and move away with it. Get the sun on it just right.
Yeah.
Put the sun in your back, get your sun shining down the cells and look in those cells. Now, if you hear any buzzing around your head or anything, all you have to do is move your head forward. You nod your head forward just a little bit and your veil falls right back down over your face.
oh, okay,
It's a technique I've been using for years to look for eggs only. And you only unzip the hood for enough so that you can get it up on your forehead. I wish I thought to bring a jacket in here so I could demonstrate that tonight, but
Okay.
that's
Well, you know, the other things, Bill, as you've talked about before too,
Take a
people can
picture.
take pictures of the frame and
Take a
then expand the pictures with their cell phone so they can see more clearly. But the other thing that also works well is just get yourself a little flashlight, small flashlight, and shine that flashlight right in the frame, get your frame up close to your face, and that'll also help you see eggs. It's more difficult to see the eggs if your plastic foundation that you have is yellow or white instead of black. With the black, the eggs will stand out much better, but those things also work well.
okay.
And
What
I
do
would
we got?
encourage folks to, once again, just ask you questions. We have a couple of the questions here that people put in the chats. I will read them, but we would encourage people to just ask them themselves.
Okay,
Thank you, Bill.
you're welcome.
Bill, how would you hold the frames and try to take a picture at the same time?
Well, so what you do is you prop up your frame with your Hive tool. So when you take a frame out, there's a space, right?
Yep.
Usually, or you can go at the or you can use the end of the colony. You can use the end of the box where there's a little ridge, and you put the bottom bar or the bottom right against that part, and then you put your Hive tool and you lean it like a little lean-to, and you'll feel it's really stable. Then you go around the other side and take a photograph.
Okay.
So you don't have any hands on your frame, and your frame. Hold on, I'll show you how it works. So can you guys see this?
Yes,
Yes.
All right, so let's say if this was a frame, right? I'd have it, this is a board I made for doing graphs. So it holds the frame up. But if this surface here, right here, was against the edge of the hive like it is here, see? Then, and I had a Hive tool in back holding it up and supported on the other side of the box, this surface would be perfect for me to take a photograph of. So that's how you do it.
Bill, are you saying you do that over the hive?
Yeah, right on top.
So you're
of the hive.
propping it on top of your hive box.
On top of my hive body, yes,
Okay.
thank you. Thanks for that clarification.
So,
Now, Sylvia, it looks like you're getting stung. You commented that you're getting stung?
Yeah, they don't like me.
Oh, so,
They actually went through the gloves.
what
So
kind of glove? What kind of glove?
bee gloves, the ones that go extending, like
The
leather
leather
on
ones?
the leather with, and yeah, I mean, I've been wearing, and of course there was the one time where I accidentally, I think, trapped a couple of them inside my veil with me. So that didn't go well either. But I'm not sure I want to expose my entire face to them to look at the eggs at this point. It's been, they haven't liked me yet. So
Okay, so
sounds
are
like
they-
good advice, but I'll wait a little bit.
Yeah, no,
because-
are they acting in a way where are they being defensive all the time when you get in them?
So yeah, I have one package, which I think my mentor advised. I think we're having problems. I don't see, it's been 8 days and I didn't see any larvae or brood. and I'm having trouble seeing eggs. So actually, right before this call, I was taking out of my nuke hive that has also been installed for about 9 days now, 10 days. They seem to be doing well, but they are really aggressive. They're kind of frenetic. I'm not sure what's going on. I'm gonna have to take a picture, but in the front, and I don't know if it's just, they don't seem to be, when I go visit during the day, they seem to be doing pretty well going in and out of their hive. So I don't see any kind of, trying to leave the hive, but
Yeah.
but
You're using.
whenever I visit, I smoke them and it doesn't seem to be like holding them back, and they are just all over me.
Yeah, that's not a good sign. That's not a good sign. So,
Okay.
and so what, so that colony, the only reason it's not a good sign is because you're brand new at this. And then, a colony like that, which would be fine in my yard, is going to be an unpleasant experience for you if they're really defensive. And that's a nuke, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So that is a genetic predisposition of those bees, because
Okay.
they've got a laying queen and they came from a colony where they're likely a little bit defensive. So use smoke, and if they're not responding to smoke, they're stinging you on your hands. I don't work with gloves, and when they start to sting my hands, it's just so unpleasant. You got to stop the inspection. So what I would do with that colony is, you already have evidence that they're laying. There's a laying queen in there.
It looks like, yes. So we see larvae going. There is a laying queen. I'm hoping I
Right.
didn't smush her in this last open 2 hours
Well,
ago.
that might not have been a bad thing if that happened. But anyway,
But yeah.
just leave that colony alone.
Okay.
Right? Add
Let 'em-
frames.
let
Add
'em just
frames when
kinda
you
be.
need to. Get in and get out of it quick. If
Okay.
that colony's temperament doesn't change, which I doubt it will, with the
Okay.
new crop of bees that come along. Right?
Okay.
Because, right, so there's going to be a new crop of bees that come along in that nuke. If the temperament stays, like when you look at them on the comb, if they're walking all around real frenetically and
Yep.
and just you'll have to requeen that colony.
Okay.
The other
Okay.
ones,
I'll
the
talk to
other
my
ones
mentor
are,
about that as we.
yeah, and the other
go.
one's okay though, right?
Well, the other one, that's why what I just did right now is I took a frame from that nuke box that I took a frame of brood, eggs, and larvae per the advisement of my mentor,
Yeah.
and put it in the box that was originally the package hive, because it's been 10 days and we're not seeing anything in there.
Well, 10 days. So, but you didn't see the queen walking around in that?
No, I didn't see a queen walking around. I mean, not that I can spot a queen very well.
Yeah, I know, but when you installed it.
No, when I installed it, we put a queen in and she released. So over 3 days, she came out of the cage.
Yeah.
And then it's been about 9 days. Well, let's see, I took her out. She came out on the 3rd. So so it's been 10 days.
Yeah.
And there's only syrup in the cells that I could see. And I didn't see any larvae and no brood.
Okay. So you put a test frame in that colony. So this is important for other people to listen to. So Sylvia put a test frame in that colony, and she made certain, her and her mentor discussed this, and they made certain that they put eggs in the colony that she suspects the queen is either missing or not laying or whatever. So what she expects to see in like about 3 days, she is going to, if there's no queen in that colony, since they have eggs, they can raise a new one, and they'll start to try to do that. And you'll see evidence of that within 24 hours. And 36 is plenty of time to wait. Hopefully you mark that frame when you put it in with a thumbtack or something, so you know which one.
Yeah, it's one of the nuke frames, so it's a different type of foundation. It's got a different frame look, so I can.
Drawn
so I plan on taking a look to see. So I think what I'm looking for is when I open it up to see if they I can find the peanut, the super Seizure, or a queen cell being created.
Yep. I mean, so if you get some experience at this, you can do it. You can actually do this within hours, believe it or not, Sylvia. But because what they'll do is the bees will begin to widen cells right away. I mean, if they're queenless, they'll start that work immediately as soon as you put the frame in. But being a new beekeeper, you probably wouldn't be able to notice that. So give it a little time. and then they will start to draw emergency cells on your comb.
Okay. So
Bill, if I could
crossing my
just,
fingers.
so if I could just share, maybe just take a minute to share my experience about the bee stings. The more experience I've gotten, the less bee stings I've been getting. And I think that's been a function of me not over smoking the bees, me being ever more careful about not banging frames, and just being very gentle with the equipment, moving very slowly as I get into the hive. And also being much more in tune with exactly where I put my fingers on the frames and on the box as I go in there, so that I don't just immediately go and grab. I always presume that I'm going to be squishing a bee when I grab it, and so that forces me to hold on to the equipment that much more gentle. And many times, including today, many times I go to grab a frame and there's a bee right underneath it, and I just sort of let go a little bit and the bee moves away. So there are other factors also that go into, I guess is the point I'm trying to make, that go into how much you get stung. And it certainly, Bill is correct, of course, about the nature of that beehive, but the more
Yeah, I mean,
experience-
it could be some operator error, too, but
It could be user.
it could be user error. This is what you should expect to see. Does everybody see those? Those are emergency cells. All right, that's what you'll expect to see in your colony. Is that share screen up?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so that's what see, they'll build a bunch of them. This is exactly a frame. This is exactly a frame that I used maybe 5-6 years ago to illustrate this biological behavior. All right.
Now,
that's what
does it matter how much? I mean, I didn't pick one of my most complete.
No, actually,
frames.
you're gonna put this. You're
Yeah.
gonna put this frame back. You're gonna do one or two things, right? So as long as there was eggs on it, Sylvia, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
All right.
Bill,
What else we got?
One of the questions or one of the comments there was lots of super seizure cells. Could you, and someone asked me this earlier today, could you please explain the differences between a super seizure cell and an emergency cell?
Sure. A super seizure cell is when the colony has decided that a laying mated queen is no longer functioning in that colony to their satisfaction. So in that respect, a queen is actually an indentured servant to the colony. She's the single reproductive female, and she's responsible for everything in terms of the manufacture and maintenance of brood. So she's over the season, she has to generate about 200,000 bees. And if she's missteps, if her pheromone profile, there's a specific pheromone she has, if that begins to fade, or there's some other signal that the bees don't like her, they will draw what they would call super seizure cells. But now a super seizure cell, under those circumstances, bees have the benefit of eggs, and they will supersede her. They're going to raise a new daughter queen from the mother queen that's in the colony. And a lot of times, I say a lot of times, but you will be able to observe this in your beekeeping career, that the bees will allow both the mother queen and the super seizure queen, the daughter queen, to coexist in the colony. So that occurs a lot. So that's super seizure, right? Emergency cells, you go in and you roll the queen or you kill them. Like remember when we discussed the split that Tori made. Now, if that queen was ready to fly because she was being like coaxed not to lay as many eggs and so on and so forth. So her ovaries shrunk and they're making her flight ready so that colony could swarm. In that case, Tori could have taken that frame out and the queen could have just flown away. And you might never see her again. Or you can kill it on inspection, you can roll the queen or do something else to damage the queen when you inspect. That's why you always have to be very careful about, I'm going to illustrate the correct way to inspect the colony so you don't roll the queen this the Saturday after next on the live Zoom from the Flower Farm. So if you kill the queen, okay, somebody's got their phone on. If you can just mute off a bit, that would be helpful. It looks like everybody's muted. So if you kill the queen, you've made that colony queenless. All right, super seizure colony has a queen they don't like. Emergency queen, they don't have any queen. You killed it, right? And or something else happened. Who knows? But there's no queen in the colony, but they have eggs, right? They'll make emergency cells. And any queenless colony that's been queenless for any period of time, if you give them eggs, they will raise emergency cells. Those aren't queen cells. And the difference is, I mean, those aren't super seizure cells. And then there's the swarm cell, which is a wonderful cell and a wonderful queen, because those are made under the exact perfect conditions for raising new queens. All right, so there's swarm cells, there's super seizure cells when they don't like the queen, and there's emergency cells when they have suddenly lost their queen and they have eggs to raise a new one. All right, so there's the difference in it. Now, you're going to ask me, well, for swarm cells, you can see a lot of them on the bottom bar usually, but they will hide a swarm cell on you in these beautiful little locations where they've carved out a little bit of wax, and you'll think you have them all and know where they all are, and there will be 2 or 3 in that colony that you haven't found. So in a swarm cell situation, they could make 15 different new queen cells. In a super seizure, they usually just make a handful on those frames. It's not like swarm season where they're making, a dozen cells or more. And you saw a typical emergency cell, an emergency frame, the one I put up where they make a half a dozen cells in the middle, wherever they can find, space to raise the queen.
Are there any tips on how not to smush the bees?
Yeah.
I mean, as you put like the top feeder on and you put the lids on,
yeah, it's a good question, and you have to learn how to do that. So, so what I suggest you do, and it should be fairly easy to learn this technique while the boxes are still light, but it gets to be more difficult when they get heavy. But you don't put it right back down on the rails. So you put the box that you're going to put down. You're not talking about frames now, right, Sylvia? You're talking about boxes.
Yeah.
Okay. Put it down at an angle and then twist it into position, right? Slowly. What'll happen is the bees that are on the edge of the box that you're trying to put this box on top of will walk out of the way if you move it slowly, right? That's the way you can do it. If you try to get it into position and drop it down on the bottom box, you're not likely to get that exactly right. And there'll be bees on that edge, which you'll squash. And the next time you'll look, they'll be just flat as a pancake all over that rim. And you'll say, oh God, I killed all of those bees when I put it back.
But even with the twist method, there are going to be some
you're going to kill
poor
some
little guys,
yes.
right? Okay. So it's
almost,
not totally wrong if somebody gets sacrificed along the way.
Almost every bee inspection that I've ever done or any box I've ever opened, there's been an unfortunate victim of my interference in that box. Frames. So if you're holding a frame like this, right, you got that frame like that, and you put it down in the box, there's going to be bees that are on the frame rest that are walking all around underneath that frame. Just touch them with the frame and they'll scoot out of the way, and then you can put it down. All right, so you can avoid about 95% of the kills. Whenever I have guests over into my bee yard and I want to show them a box that I've opened or something like that, I always make sure I go in ahead of time and scrape all of those bees that I crushed off so that they don't think I did it, so then so we all do that. So it's not, it just happens. Yeah. But back to Jose's point, if you start squashing and killing a lot of bees during an inspection, there's a bunch of alarm pheromone in the air and they get a little bit more defensive. So you got to make sure that you try to keep that your own beekeeping skills. You want to keep you from killing a lot of bees, as Jose was mentioning.
Yeah. Bill?
Yeah.
When I first met you tonight, I had mentioned that this was my first inspection.
Carol, yes.
And yes, Carol. And you had mentioned that by now I should have had capped brood. One of the things
or at least eggs.
Okay, or eggs. One of the things that made it difficult was on the first 5 frames that I examined both sides, there were so many bees covering the entire frame that now I'm wondering, should I have used a brush to brush them off?
No brushes. They sell bee brushes. They sell bee brushes, but they never asked bees about them.
Yeah, I kind of wondered about that. Well, that's why I didn't do it.
Bees hate bee brushes. Here's how you do it. Look.
Should I?
So when you're holding the frame like this.
Right. I couldn't see anything in the cells because it was covered with bees. Right.
So you have your hands like this.
Yep.
So I got my positions. My fingers are like this.
Yeah.
They're not like this, right?
Yeah. And then
They're like this when I'm holding them.
Yeah.
So you put it back down into the space you took it out of.
Right.
Give it a little. Give it one of these.
Yeah. Okay.
Right in space, right? And then it'll have half of its bees on it still.
Okay.
Right. Then you come up to the top and give it a good shake.
Okay.
And then they'll be gone.
I realized that my first inspection really wasn't much of an inspection because every frame I looked at, both sides were just covered with bees. And I thought, how am I going to do this? And I did not use the brush. Someone told me to use a feather. I didn't do that either, obviously.
Yeah, good.
Okay,
Just shake the bees off the frame.
Okay.
Now, when you get a little braver, you can do this, and Bill will tell you, you just take your fingers and just gently put your fingers on top of the bees.
You can press them like this with your hand.
And they will move out of the way.
Yes.
But do not do what some other people advise, which is to blow on the bees. Don't do that.
Yes.
You can gently put your hand on the bees and they will move out of the way.
So then when should I do my next proper inspection? Today was day 14.
Well, you can't, don't judge your first inspection. That's not, your first inspection wasn't not proper. It's part of your learning process.
Right, part of my learning curve. So
the first thing you saw is, this is a good, so this is your first inspection ever. And you did it well, actually. So your next one is, you're just going to have to wait a little bit. Give them 3 days to put the colony back together.
Okay, leave it just as it is, 3 days.
And then 3 or 4 days, and then just get back in there and take a quick look. What you're going to try to do is, now you have a 10 frame deep, right?
I have a 10 frame deep with an internal division board feeder. So there's 8 frames right now.
Yeah.
5 of them have bees on them. The other 3.
So you take the end frame out, not near the feeder.
Okay.
The opposite end frame. The edge frame.
Empty one. It's empty.
Yeah, good. You take the empty frame out,
right,
and then you move the frames over till you get close to the middle where the
brood should be.
Brood should be, right? Or at least where there's a lot of bees, right?
Right.
But as you move your frames,
right,
push them against that side wall where the missing frame is.
Okay.
So always keep your frame shoulders touching.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. And I'll tell you why in a minute. Then you get to say the 4th frame or so that has a lot of bees. You do your inspection.
Okay.
And then if you don't see anything there, you're going to do the next one and the next one.
They come closer and closer to the feeder.
Right. And so, and then when you're done with your inspection, all your frames should be pressed against. You should have a frame space opening between the last frame and your feeder.
Right.
Then you take your hive tool and you go to the other end of the box and you slide them all back over together as a single unit.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Right. So you don't want, to be moving frames in and out and this keeps your queen alive.
Right.
Now, when you got them all over toward the feeder again, you'll have space to put that other frame back in and you're done.
Okay.
Except that frame has to have its shoulders touching the frame also.
And that frame that I removed that was from the back end comes.
It was
over
empty.
The feeder.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, the frame I'm talking about is opposite the feeder.
Okay, the far end, that's the one I'm taking out.
Yeah, you take that one out.
Correct.
You put, that's the last one you put back in.
Put back in, but you put it back where I found it.
Yeah, right where you found it doesn't really matter because there's not much going on.
Right, okay. But
There's
you
not
want
much
it-
going on in that frame, yeah.
there's not
You
much
guys
going
have,
on.
you guys that have what they call division board feeders, which are feeders that go inside the colony. It's probably better for you to be using top feeders at this point.
You know what, Bill, that was my next question, because here's the other problem. My bees are drowning. You know, I'm feeding them, I'm keeping them fed. Adam has always talked about feed, feed, feed. So I'm making.
Well, got to remember, so let's make a distinction
Yeah,
between a commercial beekeeper and a backyard
that's
beekeeper.
why I'm talking to you.
Okay, so we're back. I'm going to talk to you about being a backyard beekeeper, not a
Right.
commercial beekeeper who is
Right.
trying to, that's good. You got to feed, but that doesn't help you.
Right.
You want to be observational. So,
Right.
I'm not suggesting that commercial beekeepers don't have anything to offer because they do.
Right,
They have a lot to offer to this conversation, but their management practices are industrialized,
yeah,
right? Yours don't have to be. So you can put a top feeder on at this point.
and get rid
And-
of the internal, get rid of the division
Yeah.
board.
Yeah, and you can get rid of the division board
I
feeder.
would love to do
Now,
that.
the reason that if your bees are going to drown,
And they
then-
are,
all right, if they're drowning in your feeder,
they are.
in any kind of feeder, they won't ever drown in a top feeder
Okay.
because they usually don't drown in a top feeder.
Those are the
because-
ones that look like those round. I can get one from Better Bee or someplace. I've seen.
You can
them.
do that, or you can just get a pickle jar from somebody and then poke holes in it and
got
turn it
it.
upside down
Okay.
over the slot in your
Okay,
inner cover, and you can feed them that way.
okay,
So, but look at those options.
okay. And making
But
that.
fill your, but for your division board feeders, you can fill them with floats. And the best float for a division board feeder that's open on the top, that doesn't have a wooden top,
Mine is all
and cages for the bees to go
Yeah,
down
that's
into.
what I have.
It's just open.
No, it's got the wood and it's just got those long tubes, those ladders that you instill in each of the holes.
And the bees are still drowning in there?
Well, yes, and I've actually lifted the units out, the cages, and they're at the bottom are dead drowned bees, which isn't
All right. Yeah,
surprising.
that's a real surprise.
But I don't like that.
No, I don't like that either. That doesn't usually happen, but unless you're filling it when they're in there.
There are always going to be bees around. I'm probably just, yeah.
No, I'm
maybe.
saying that you're filling it through the
With-
tubes, right?
Right, it's dark. I mean, how do I know they're in there?
Well, then you probably, yeah, well, no, if they don't have a chance to escape while you're filling them,
No,
then you can drown them sometimes.
yeah,
Yeah, so I take that out when I fill them. And then if there's bees in it, you can shake them out and then put it back in, right? But you can also, in any open feeder, you can use pine needles and bees won't drown with pine needles.
okay.
Cool.
I'll
Should
take
you
your
change,
advice.
how often should you change the sugar water thing in the feeder?
Good question.
Where's that? So
I just,
well,
Does it go bad?
not usually. It won't go bad until it gets really warm. And but over a certain time frame, it will begin to go rancid. But you can tell right away. It gets a little like an oily sheen on top of it, and it's it ferments. But you shouldn't be getting to that point. You shouldn't have to worry too much about that. With a new colony, drawn comb, it should be taken down syrup and drawn comb. So you won't have a whole lot of worry about that, I don't think. But
do you like Honeybee Healthy?
no,
Does that help? No?
nope, I don't like it. You asked me if I like it. If you mix it with almond milk, it's drinkable. But
No, do you like it for your bees? I'm sorry.
oh, for my bees. Oh,
I'm sorry. It smells so good. I thought you were serious for a minute.
it smells wonderful. I mean,
It
you
does smell
can,
wonderful. I could
it's
use
a
it as a
wonder-
cologne.
yeah, I know. You
It
can
really
do
is
that.
nice
You know.
smelling. But is it
Yeah.
something that you would,
Well,
daughter
no, I don't.
recommended-
No, I don't. So there's no. I'm more of a scientist in the way I keep bees. There's no scientific evidence that anything Honeybee Healthy does anything for your bees.
Okay,
Now, well, the one thing it will do for them is it'll mark that colony with a scent so other bees can find it. So
Oh, dear.
I'd be very careful if you put in any additive like that. Your bees don't need anything except sucrose.
okay.
Now, there are some products that are coming up that we haven't fully tested yet. And those products will provide a microbiome for bees, but we don't even know if they work.
No
So
pollen patties? You said they only need,
I know in the state of Connecticut, and again, here you are, you're a backyard beekeeper, and my
Right.
guess is that there's pollen coming into your colony at this point.
today was like the first day because the weather's been so bad up here where I
Yeah.
live. We haven't even left the hive.
Yeah. Well, that could be a reason why, by the way, Carol, that your queen's not laying yet.
And I'm also high, I'm at 600 feet above sea level and it's kind of windy. I'm on a hill.
Yeah. So that could be another reason why
Environmental factors.
we haven't gotten started yet. But
Yeah.
usually for most people where they live in the state of Connecticut, we start to get pollen somewhere,
Yeah.
right in the early part of the season. Like I get pollen coming into my colonies usually in February,
Right. Wow.
all the way until September. Oh, I mean, I'm not sorry, not September, all the way till the end of October, by second week in October. So,
I'm surrounded by commercial apiaries, by the way, commercial orchards.
commercial orchards.
Yeah, Belltown, lots of commercial orchards. I'm right smack in the middle.
Well, they're done blooming already.
Right, but but there's been a
So
lot of
that bloom is over.
berries. Yeah, the apples are over.
Yeah, well, they're all over. There's no bloom out yet. There's no bloom, no fruit bloom.
There's not a
left.
lot of pollen.
Well,
now.
yeah, you'll see, you'll get pollen. Those orchards, what they do is the understory grows dandelion
Right. I got
almost
the-
all season, and that's a great source for your bees to get into.
Right.
Where are you, Carol?
I'm in South Glastonbury. I live right down the street from a number of orchards, Belltown Orchards, Rose's Berry Farm. I'm surrounded by orchards, commercial orchards.
Blueberries, you got any blueberries up there?
Tons of blueberries.
Okay, so the blueberries are still out,
Right.
but your bees don't like blueberries, but they're still out.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if my environment is what has been kind of keeping things a little bit slow to evolve.
No,
My bees' environment.
you're
not
just
mine.
worried about your new
I'm
bees.
very worried about them.
That's all it is. So that's
Let 'em-
okay. I mean, you're going to be a good beekeeper if you
That's
have,
all I want to be.
yeah. So if you have
Seriously.
good animal husbandry skills or thinking, you're going to be good. So just go in and check it in a little while. Now,
Okay.
Rebecca's going to is in a position where she put her bees in at exactly the same time. She has a different
Right, that's why I've been
environment.
paying
Rebecca, where do you
attention to
live?
her. I think she got them also from the same place, same
Yeah,
time.
where do you live, Rebecca?
My hives are at my parents' home in Clinton.
All right, so completely different
Completely different environment.
environment. Yeah. So
Mhm.
Okay.
so see, that's why the ecosphere and the biology are linked.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bill, can I just jump in for a sec? Two things. One, you were talking about when you're talking about putting a medium frame and a deep box
Yes.
for the honey and having the drones build on the bottom of that. You
Yeah.
delicately said we should harvest them. I assume what you meant is actually kill them by scraping them off.
Yeah, you scrape them off and throw them out.
Okay, good. And the other thing is I want to echo Jose's sentiment about the clumsiness of beekeepers having a big impact on the temperament. Those big leather gloves that you buy for beekeeping are awesome, but they're so clumsy. I moved to these like nitrile gloves, and that made
Yeah.
the world of difference. Yes,
So-
I get stung like about 20% of the time, but it's like I'm so much more agile. I like my bees are much more calmer when I wear these things.
Yeah, the problem with the leather beekeeping gloves is that the fingertips are too big, and you can't work the colony.
Yeah.
So if you get Dean's gloves, Dean, where did you get them from?
Costco. They're
Okay, you got it from
like a couple
Costco.
of cents a glove.
I love
You got it from Costco. All right, so no, that's a good place. And if you double them up, so Sylvia, if you put on 2 pair of those, you get some sting protection out of it. A single pair, they can still sting through.
Yep.
So put on 2 and you'll get some sting protection, but you'll
It'll
be
make
much more dexterous in the colony.
The other thing I wanted to mention, Bill, somebody mentioned about mouse guards. You don't need to use a mouse guard when you have one of those old, like an old-fashioned wooden frame reducer, right? Entrance reducer.
You do in the fall.
Okay. So
Yeah,
what sort of a mouse guard do you use with those if you've got a 3-inch hole?
I
You
just
putting
put a
some mesh
piece-
over it?
Yeah, I just put a little piece of 1/2-inch hardware cloth over it.
Okay. One last one, and then I'll shut up.
Yeah.
If you've got a new package that you've installed, how far into the season do you typically feed it?
Well, if you install a new package, you have to feed it until you get, and if you've installed it on foundation, so is that what you did, Dean?
That's
Or
what
is
several people asked the question. So I'm
okay,
just
is that the
echoing.
scenario? Okay, the scenario is, all right. If you've installed this on foundation, you're likely going to have to feed it for a very long time, maybe all year, because you want to get 10 frames drawn in the bottom box and 10 frames drawn in the top box. And that takes a lot of energy. And if your bees will eventually, if there's a strong nectar flow, they'll ignore your SERP, and then there's nothing you can do about that. You know, you just take it off the colony.
And if you've installed the package on drawn comb.
Oh, well, and so I install, if I'm going to install, so this year I was lucky enough, 5 packages fell off of a truck somewhere, and I ended up with them. So, and so I have, of course, so I have some resources. So I have drawn comb, I have honey, and I have pollen frames. So I put them all in there, and I had enough to put in 5 single deeps. So I have 5 packages, 5 single deeps. I said, well, you know what? Let me just get them off, let them get started. I'll go to Costco or someplace and buy enough sugar to get them all started. So I go get my sugar. I put my feeders out in the yard. I'm getting ready to feed them, and a little bit of bad weather comes back, so I start leaving for a few days, and then they start foraging a little bit. And I know I have frames of honey in there, so there's no way they're going to starve. By the time I got back to feed them, which was about 5 days later, they had already put a bunch of nectar in there from plant sources. So once the colony's putting nectar up and they've got drawn comb, there's no reason for you to feed them. All right. So, but if you're starting out with foundation, that's not the case.
Thank you, Bill.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay, so we talked about how long we should feed with the pollen and sugar, and I got that part. Honey, be healthy. How high should I keep the hive off the ground? Where I live, there's skunks, and from what I understand, the skunks like to pound on the boxes.
No, skunks aren't noted for pounding. they scratch.
Okay.
And then they squirt.
So
what they do is they scratch on the colony, and then the bees feel that scratching vibration. They come out to see what's going on, and then the skunks eat them. So if you got to keep them off the ground, I like to keep them off about 8 inches.
okay, so a cinder block would be fine. How about 2 cinder blocks?
If a cinder block is fine, why are you asking about 2?
Well, it keeps them higher off the ground. If I put 2, stack them, kept it higher off.
You can put them up as high as you want, Bill, but one block is fine. Eight
Okay.
inch, 8 inches off the ground is fine. Don't put the holes up and down though. So on the block, right, you've got an 8-inch side, but there's also,
Yep.
I usually like to keep the holes so I can see through them.
Oh, I see. Okay, I understand that.
Because if you can't see through the holes, you'll get ant colonies underneath them. And then they work their way up into the colony. So if you keep the block so you can see holes and you can see the holes that are in the block. You follow me? So you
Yep.
can look through them.
Okay, thank you. How about, okay, with 2 boxes, should I have 2 openings? So if I put another box on top, should I have 2 openings? Should I drill a hole? I was told that the size of a wine cork should be on the top box.
Yeah, see, I don't know. Did you buy these boxes, Bill, or did somebody give them to you, or did you buy them?
Well, I assembled them. I bought them from Better Bee, and I
Yeah.
assembled them. So
And they came without a hole, right?
yes.
I'd leave them that way.
Okay.
The upper entrances are interesting, but not necessary.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You can try drilling a hole in a perfectly good box if you want to,
No.
and see what happens with that upper end. Again, you can do that to see what's going on, to see what happens, but it's not necessary.
I don't want to experiment until I know what I'm doing.
Okay, yeah.
Bill, is it fair to say if you've got skunks, you'll know about it? I had skunks my first year and there were just scratches all over my hive from them.
Yeah, there's scratches all over your hive. You'll know about it. At that point, you can lean a queen excluder against your front entrance. And that makes the skunk have to stretch. And then the bees will sting its stomach and it'll stop. If you've got skunks in your colonies, you'll see their scat right near the entrance. So you can't miss it. Go on the internet and Google skunk scat and you'll see what it looks like. Now, it has, it'll have all the wings and parts of the exoskeleton that the skunk can't digest. So, and they digest immediately. So if they're eating bees, you'll see their scat down there right away. Now they're smart. Skunks are one of my favorite little animals. They'll eat the bees, they'll defecate near the colony, and then that defecation will attract insects that will begin to devour the defecation. The next night, the skunk will come back and eat those. All right, so because they get bugs. All right, so they're a really crafty animal.
Huh.
So you should have a bee fence around those colonies, and you can keep a skunk out of your yard with bee fences also.
Electric fence.
Electric fence will keep.
Yeah, I use the poly tape and keep the lower one 3 inches, right, actually 2.5 inches off the grass line. Nobody's going underneath there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Make sure it's always energized. Groundhogs will try to get into your bee colony also.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that will eat bees is possums. They'll eat bees also, but they're they're not as agile as skunks. But if your electric fence is on, you're not going to get any skunks in your yard.
Yeah.
Or very few anyway. All right, listen, we're burning a lot of daylight here. We got any last questions, or did we do it? That's more than 20 minutes. But anyway, that's great.
I don't think we have any other questions. I think Dean did a good job of going back and bringing up the ones that were outstanding. So you
Good.
could either present something you wanted to present, or
Yeah, I guess we want to talk a little bit about swarm season for folks like Santo, who's here and wants to know about swarm season, I'm sure. Good to see you, my friend. Okay.
Same here, Bill.
Okay, good. Everything's fine?
Everything is fine. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So, so in swarm season, this is what we're up against right now. Actually, if your colonies have overwintered and you have a strong colony, you can expect at this point that it's likely to swarm. And I'm just going to go over some of the basics about what occurs in the colony. And I'll start with the urge to swarm, which is, as we had mentioned a little bit about queen buttons in our earlier discussion, the first sort of sign you see that normally that beekeepers recognize is all of these little queen buttons. So let's see if we can find a queen structure. Rebecca, you sent a photograph in your email, right? I know I have them.
Yes, Bill, I did. I didn't take a picture of the inside though. Now I know, but
Yeah, I know. I gotta go.
sorry, but it was a side version.
Did you send that the info at? Is that where you sent it?
I sent it to our.
Oh, you sent it. Huh?
Our email, our tutor email.
Okay, you sent it to that. Okay. Okay, let me show you what one looks like.
Sure.
Which she refers to as a scary cell.
Yes, I did. I was so upset.
Whoops. All right. Okay. Let me see if I can find us again. All right. So this is what a queen button looks like. Is it all blue? Okay, there it is. So do you see that? Does everybody see that little structure right there?
Yes.
Okay. So that is what we refer to as, there's technically, we call it queen structures, but I like to refer to them as buttons because that's sort of what they look like. So in this particular photograph, we're seeing that the bees are building these. Now during swarm season, you see a lot of these. And it's, according to Winston, this is the first indication that the colony is thinking about swarming. So you'll see a lot of these. They don't mean anything unless there's an egg in them. And then if there's an egg in them, they don't mean anything unless that egg turns into larva. So that's what one looks like. You'll see them all over the colony, mostly on the bottom bars, between the bottom bar and on the edge of the bottom bar and the top. So let me get, let's see what.
Should we take those out?
No, leave them alone. All right, so now swarm cells, right, are a little different. I'll show you what they actually turn into. All right, so let me share this screen. So a queen button, if it gets is that got a split screen where you're seeing the emergency cells in the background? So do you see this? Okay, there's a bunch of those buttons that were a bunch of those were buttons. These were buttons. Now they're the beginnings of swarm cells, right? So you see how this is upside down. So you're looking at the bottom bar of the frame. And these have all turned from, now each one of these has a larva in it. So you can see right on this picture alone, there is what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 queens, 10, one in the back. There's 10 queens that this frame is, that this colony is developing, right? None of these are, well, this one's capped right here, right? But this particular colony hadn't swarmed yet. So once a queen button has an egg in it that turns to a larva, then they turn into these, which are swarm cells. Right around the time when these swarm cells get capped in your colony is when your colony will swarm. So this is not just a warning. This is an indication that the colony is going to swarm when you have these kinds of cells built out. And then what happens is the mated queen, so this is what we refer to as the prime swarm, the mated queen leaves the colony with about 40% of the bees or more, and lots of young bees, and they take off with the mated queen to what we refer to as the bivouac, which is the first stop on their way to a new home. So bees then leave the colony. They leave about 60% of the bees behind, or 50% of the bees behind, and all of those swarm cells, which will then turn into virgin queens. And then they leave with the mated queen, and they go. They're in your backyard. They came out of your colony, and there's plenty of trees that are 10 feet tall, but they go to the one that is 60 feet tall, and they go and land in there, so you can't get them back. See, that's what they do. But so your mated queen is out there with a bunch of bees, and then what happens in the colony, we'll talk about what happens to that bivouac in a minute. But back in the colony, they're going to raise queens. There's going to be a fitness contest there, and then a new queen will eventually, hopefully, take control of that, what we refer to as the mother colony, and take it over. So now you have a new queen in there. But the process of swarming delays brood rearing for a very long period of time. So you think about it, you can go a very long period of time between the time that a virgin queen emerges, and you get a new queen in that colony. Now, if you want a nice reference for what occurs in there, I wrote this little pamphlet a long, long time ago. And what I'll do is it explains all the timing in this process, the process of making a new queen. And it talks about how to make splits and do walk away splits, and all of that biology is exactly the same as the day I wrote it. So there's no new research there. So you can actually look at that. I'll post that. I'll try to post that in the chat before we leave. And then you can download it. It's a little pamphlet, 20 pages or so, and it gives you all the timing on all of that. So then, so that's basically the biology of the biv. Let's switch over to the bivouac now. So the bivouac is up there, and there's foragers and scout bees in that bivouac, and there's a bunch of nurse bees there. There's drones. If your colony has small hive beetles, there might be some small hive beetles in it. So it has a full complement of all the biology in the colony. And then the scout bees that are up in that bivouac will begin to look for a new home. And they'll look for a hollow tree or a swarm box. If you have one up there, you might be lucky enough to catch them in that. But they'll be off and on their way in 2 or 3 days after the scouts find a wonderful home for them to go to. Right, so they'll leave from that location. Now, there's a couple variations on that. Sometimes the bivouac doesn't form, and the scout bees already know where that colony is going, and by form I mean it doesn't stay hanging for any period of time. They might hang for just minutes or an hour or two, and then take off because they know where they're going, and the scout bees bring them to the new location. Right, for a reference on how all of that swarm procedure works, look at Tom Seeley's work, Honeybee Democracy, and he explains the whole swarm process in there in great detail. He studied it for decades and knows it better than any scientist in the world, and he does. And he's a wonderful writer, a clear writer, and you get a bunch of interesting information out of that I can't share with you because we don't have the time right now. So I guess, so about that basic processes, are there any questions about what occurs? Because there are other things that can happen now where, that swarm will not be enough for that colony. So sometimes an after swarm will occur, which means one of those queens will turn into will take the colony out for a secondary swarm, right? So and then sometimes the colony will swarm a third time. And in those cases, there's very little chance that the colony will do well. If it continues to swarm and it does a prime swarm then a secondary swarm, then a tertiary swarm, and it just keeps swarming. That sometimes occurs. We don't understand quite enough about the biology to explain that, but under those circumstances, colony's kind of doomed because it never finds equilibrium and it just keeps taking bees away from the colony until there's not enough for the home for the mother colony or the donor colony to survive.
Hey, Bill,
Yeah.
what's the difference between absconding and a swarm?
Well, absconsion usually occurs when it could be environmental. Lots of times absconsion occurs during droughts where the colony is operating on some ancient biology that drives them to leave and find other productive sources. You could put a lot of honeybee healthy in your colony and they wonder why you're doing this to them. And so they say, you got to get out of here because it's not really a, oh, what happened to me? I lost my light. It's not really, a productive colony. It's not a safe place for us to live. Right? So they'll abscond under those situations. There's a third, and we can talk a little bit about that. But absconsion is when the bees leave in mass. They have no plans of leaving, of continuing that colony. They're leaving that location for some reason.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you put thymol in a colony, it will abscond because it's a very strong odor. Right. So there's that. It's rare, but it occurs. And lots of disturbance in a colony. Sometimes new packages abscond. So, so absconsion is the colony's leaving, no intention of remaining in that location.
Thank you.
Any question?
Hey, Bill,
Yeah.
this is Santo. I got a question. One of my friends stopped doing bees and he comes down and drops a box of Mite Away quick strips. And they're expired April 2020. Should I deep six it or can I still use it?
Well, so if you can use it, you're off label if you use it now because they're expired. So it's actually technically illegal to use. What happens with Mite Away quick strips, which does not happen with as much with Formic Pro, is with Mite Away quick strips, the medium that they use to suspend the formic acid so that it can sublimate out of the pad allows the formic acid to separate after a while. So now if you look at them and they have you can see them, right? When you look through the clear cellophane they're in, if they look like they have a yellow liquid all around them, that means that the formic acid has found its way out of the pad. And if you open that up and put it on the colony, it'll do what they refer to as flash treat the colony. It puts a tremendous load of formic acid all at once. And that's not how that product is designed to be used.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask you a question?
All right.
So that's a flash treatment, and that's not something you want to do, I don't think. So I would get rid of them if they don't show a sign that the formic acid has leached out of them and they're in the package because it's so close. Well, they're a year old now, right?
Right.
They're a year out of date. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I thought you meant April 2021. That's right. You're a year old. Yeah. Yeah, they're not going to be something you want to use.
So Bill, getting back to swarming a little bit, since it's getting kind of late, for the relatively new beekeepers, what sorts of things would we do that would contribute to swarming? Or in other words, what things should we do to help mitigate swarming? I know that's a heavy question for at this time of the night, but I don't think we've gotten there yet.
No, we didn't get there yet. So hopefully in that workshop on Saturday, I'll see some swarm cells. I can talk a little bit more about that. But the idea would be to do exactly what Tori was talking about earlier in the evening, where she made a split and left the swarm cells in the large colony and took the queen and some brood and put it in a nuke. It's the easiest way to deal with swarm season for a beginner. That's what they do. You make a split. Now, if you wanted to avoid it in the beginning, if you had a very, very strong colony coming into spring, then what I do is I harvest brood out of them systematically. I'll take a couple of frames of brood out as the season goes on, so that I'm always sort of asking them to sacrifice a couple of frames of brood. And in that way, you can keep the colony at bay. The population builds fine. They'll make honey for you, and you have all of these nice brood frames that you can put in other boxes that are either weaker, or you can make splits with them, or whatever you want to do. So I harvest brood. That's over for me now because I'm past that. So there's no colonies in my yard that will swarm because I've done that, or I've split out colonies that had cells or indications that they were going to swarm. So make a simple split like Tori did, and that's the way you deal with it. You start to try to identify swarm cells and start to try to cut them all out and do all of that. And for a new beekeeper, that's probably not practical at that point. So a simple split will do it. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So if I'm using Honeybee Healthy, should I reduce the opening, the hive opening? Let's say in the fall and in the spring.
What does it say? So I don't use it, so you'd have to look at the jar and see is it the packaging.
I know what the jar doesn't say. What I'm saying is because it attracts other bees and swarming, or not swarming. I'm sorry. It attracts.
Yeah, so I think the discussion would. So somebody asked me my comments about Honeybee Healthy, and I said I don't use it. I don't recommend you use it, but.
So you don't want to answer that. Okay, that's fine.
No. It's not that I don't want to answer it. I just don't. I don't think I have an answer for that. I don't think anybody has an answer for that. Well, the Honeybee Healthy and the entrance are not. Like I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. I really don't. I don't think they're connected actually.
Okay.
But if you wanted to reduce the incidence of robbing, then you would reduce the entrance.
And that was my next question. If I suspect robbing, should I reduce the entrance?
If you suspect robbing, you should have a robber screen ready to go on.
And what's that?
That's a device. That's a device that you put on the front of the colony, right? That will prevent robbers from getting in, and it only allows bees that are in that colony, are familiar with the scent of that colony, to get back in the colony. So you can use a robber screen on any time you want.
Hey, Bill.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Stacy. I just installed 2 nukes for the first time 11 days ago. I just did my first inspection today. I actually did purchase some robber screens because I am in South Glastonbury and I have a ton of Yellowjackets that we have here with the fruit. So I did buy them. However, I'm not sure if I should wait until I start watching for robbers or see them coming in. We have a ton of wasps and Yellowjackets here. I'm just wondering when the best time for me to apply them and pop them on top of the hives.
Not on top. You mean over the entrance?
Right, over the entrance. They come with push pins.
Yeah, you can put them in now if you want. You can run them. Let the bees get used to them. Yeah, you can do that right now if you want. You can also trap those Yellowjackets. I'm just starting to see this queens now. So the Yellowjacket Queens are only in the last few days have come out. So so you're not So you can trap them. They sell great traps to trap. I've trapped them in my yards all the time, and I keep my yellow jacket population really low because you can end up with some problems if they're always in there. But a
We
really
have a ton.
yeah,
We have a ton, and I started looking for, I started researching all the different traps that they have for yellow jackets and wasps here. So we have a ton, and I've seen them out already. They're already starting to build all the nests. So I'm just trying to get ahead of that and be proactive in terms of, you know, protecting the hive.
Well, they won't take down a strong colony though, Stacy. So your colony can't be overrun by them if they're strong. If they're weak, they can be.
I have 1 week hive. So out of the 2 nukes, one nuke is much weaker than the other. So I'm a little concerned about that. So I want to get the protection going on if I can.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Thank
those are nuke boxes. So they make robber screens are for full, usually they're just for, you have to make one. So go on the internet and, because they don't sell them for nuke boxes.
No, I actually installed my nukes into my hives 11 days ago.
Okay.
So yeah, so I did buy the actual robber screens for
So
the hive.
Yeah. Okay. So you have
Yep.
Be Smart. You have Be Smart robber screens. Is that what the company?
I believe that's what it is.
Yeah. All right. So
Yeah.
but that's a good robber screen, and that'll work for you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, I wasn't finished. I have another question. That's okay. I have, I ordered Mite Quick Strips, and I also have Formic Pro. Can I use Formic Pro now, or when it's time, and then use Mite Quick Strips? Can I mix those chemicals, so to speak?
It's the same chemical. They're both formic acid. But I think I answered this question for you already.
Well, you may have, but there's a lot of discussion going on. So if you can answer it again, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, so you have to measure. So what I'm asking you to do is either put a drop board under that colony or find out, you said that your shaker devices, your quick.
I haven't received that yet. I ordered all that from Badins, and I'm getting all that, but I do have Formic Pro, and I ordered Mite Quick Strips.
Why? I don't understand why you would order both of those.
I didn't order both of those. I had Formic Pro from last year, and I did one treatment, and I had a swarm because I wasn't aggressive enough with the Varroa treatment. This year, I ordered the Mite Quick Strips at a 10 batch, and do a more regimental treatment. But I do have one strip left over from the Formic Pro. And should I throw it away, or can I use it?
Yeah, you can use that. That's a half a treatment. You can use a half a treatment on something, but aren't you starting out with new colonies now?
Well, yes, I have a new colony. Yes.
Well, so I would actually wait until you can do a mite count before you figure out what your strategy is going to be.
Okay, because you said last year that I should be more aggressive with the Varroa treatment. And I think that the Varroa treatment was the quick strips and,
I would love to be able to recall that conversation. I don't think I can. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what the context was of your question.
Context was that I lost the whole entire swarm. It was actually the last meeting that we had.
Swarm? What do you mean by swarm?
Yep. And I did treat for them in September. And I did 2 treatments, and you had said, well, I didn't do anything wrong, but it sounds like you learned a valuable lesson. Maybe I should have been a little bit more aggressive.
Well, I think what we talked about was that your bees might have died because you didn't measure any of the mites, and you just allowed the mite population to grow until it killed the colony. But that was the conversation, right, Bill?
Yes, that was the conversation.
Yeah. Okay. So
I can mix the two. I can use it when it comes time, or throw it away.
what you're gonna do, Bill, is follow the package instructions.
So the package instructions are not going to say to mix the two. So the format.
So then if the package instructions say don't mention mixing the two, then you don't do it. You got to use the package, your product, the way those instructions, that's the law. It's the label is the law on how you use those products, and you have to adhere to those, to that label. So if you're going to do anything like mix stuff together, what I was suggesting is, yes, you can use that one Formic Pro according to the instructions on the label, and then you can use Mitaway Quick Strip according to the instructions on the label, but you don't like putting them together in the same
No, I
column.
wouldn't put them together. I'm asking if I could use the one so I don't waste it, or should I give it away, or, you know, throw it away or whatever. But okay, I understand. I understand the answer. Thank you.
Okay, all right, good.
Bill, did you say the brand that you liked of that robber screen was Be Smart?
Yeah, Be Smart makes a good robber screen.
Okay, I just wanted to write that down.
Yeah, they make a really good one. And it's
Okay, thank you.
white plastic, and it has little.
Yeah, I just looked at a picture. It's got push pins.
Yeah, it's got push pins. You can put them in there, you know.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Well, listen, I think we're past our time, aren't we, Jose? And Paul, where are you guys?
Yeah, we sure are. You know, but listen, we still have 60 people on, and so people are interested in what you're saying, and they're asking lots of good questions.
All right, well, let's continue with the question. Look, you know, I tell you what, we can't. We can just popcorn a few more questions out. Let's make sure we wrap it up a little bit, you know, in 10 minutes or something, or 15 minutes. But if anybody has anything.
Yeah, I was thinking about that only because we did start kind of late on your presentation.
Yeah, I know that's
all the questions. So
yeah.
Hey, Bill, I actually have a question.
Somebody's outside. Go ahead.
I wonder if you wanted to comment about proper spacing of colonies around the apiary.
Well, you know, if it's ideal, if you have the ideal situation, what you would do is you would put your colonies in a sort of configuration where they weren't in a line, and that the entrances were oriented in different directions, so that you had like a not a linear yard, but a yard that looks sort of haphazard. But the entrances were all facing, like one's facing north, one's facing what? How many hives are you talking about?
5.
Yeah, so 5's a good, you know, you can have 3 in one and 2 in another. It's just so that they're not like in a straight line.
Mm-hmm.
And that the entrances are facing in different directions, like one east, one west, you know, one south. You know, try to keep the entrances facing in those directions rather than north. But they even work if they're facing north.
I was thinking them in terms of discussion about the robbing, and then you know, drifting and passing of pathogens and that type of thing. Yeah. So if you're thinking along those lines, then a line of colonies that are like right next to each other, that's a situation where you're going to get a lot of drifting and so on and so forth. And then it's easy to spread pathogens that way. So the most ideal way would be to break them off, give them 3 feet of room between them, and face them you know, not in a line, sort of in a box configuration, with the colonies at the corners and of that imaginary box, and then facing in other directions. That will definitely cut down on. You might not help robbing, but it'll definitely count. Head drifting off a little bit. Drifting is a major concern of ours Right,
in
thank you.
little yards. All right, but that's
Thank
a
you
good
very much.
question. So you should think a lot about how you want to manage your yard. in that respect. If you only have 2 colonies, it doesn't really matter much. But when you start to have more, and if you have the room, my yards are just, the boxes are lined up, because I have to have them that way, just because if you're going to try to open up, 20 colonies in one day, you can't have them all over the place, so, and then I'm switching resources between them and so on and so forth. So.
Great, thank you.
I'm doing sort of a commercial job. What else we got?
So,
Right.
Bill, may I ask a question?
Sure.
Suggested, you had mentioned something regarding the division board feeder, and it might be used by commercial apiaries.
No, well, no, that's used by all kinds of beekeepers. What I'm suggesting is that you could go over to a top feeder at this point.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. That's right. Tomorrow, I'd like to do that. Okay, so if I do that and I take out the division board feeder, I'll have space for 2 more frames. I can
Yeah.
take that for my second box that I have set aside.
Yeah.
Just place that, and it won't disturb the bees.
No,
Okay, good. All right, I like that.
that'll work good.
No,
So-
I like what you did. I've learned so much tonight that makes
So,
better
yeah.
sense to me.
All right, so what are you going to use for a top feeder? Do you have one?
Nope, but I'll get, when you said I can use a jar, like a pickle jar, I've got jars and I've got covers and I can drill holes in them. Maybe support it a little bit.
Yeah, you can drill.
Randy
Carol-
Oliver had
Carol,
something-
Carol, I can lend you some. Just send me an email, and you're near me, so I can do that. And then when you get yours, it'll be fine.
Jose, where are you? That would be great. Sure.
He's up in your neck of the woods.
I'm not following the chat because I'm trying to pay attention to Bill. And
I'll send you an email.
I got some interesting help suggestions over here. That would be awesome, Jose. Thank you. So yeah, I'd like to do that ASAP. And also get rid of Honeybee Healthy.
Well, I mean,
I don't
you
want
can
to attract.
you can try to use it. It's like you said, it smells great.
Well, I've been using it, but I could use it. No, I'm kidding.
No, you can use no. I mean,
I don't wanna attract
yeah.
interesting bees or animals.
I think if you read the packet, if you read the
I did.
ingredients, the
I
first
have.
time I read the ingredients on Honeybee Healthy,
Yep.
this is only my personal preference. I put a shot of vodka in it and just drank it down. It was
No,
great.
I mean, I know.
It's wonderful stuff if you want to. No, I just don't. I think that let me get you my philosophy is that there's lots of things that they sell beekeepers in catalogs, and they're in the business of trying to make money, whether or not they're in tune with the biology of the bees and they do anything. Every time that the scientists that I trust that have more energy than I do to do this actual research and question these manufacturers for the data on it, they keep giving them stuff that there's no independent studies that indicate that there's any value in any of them. As I mentioned, there might be some that are coming along with this new sort of microbiome stuff, and that may turn out to be something that we might want to consider feeding our bees. But initially, we're in the same situation with that. There's nothing there.
Bill, Diane asked about your pamphlet. Is that something that you could put out a blog on or to distribute it to folks?
Where is that? That is something, yeah. Well, you can buy it on Amazon if you wanted to support me as a beekeeper. But I wouldn't want you to do that because they charge too much for it. So I'll see, so where is that? So let me see if I can. Oh, hold on. Where did I put
Can you put out a swarm box too early?
Oh, no, you could have put one out a long time ago. Right? You could put one on. You could have put one on a long time ago. Okay, here it is. All right, let me see. Let me put this in the chat right now, okay? And see if you guys can get it. You want to talk about it for a minute before I do that? Let's see if I can.
It's up to you. We're down to 47.
Okay, let me, yeah. But the hardcore is still in here. See, that's the thing. Hold on. let me see if I can add this thing in there. Whoa, wow, the chat's going crazy.
In the meantime, I would encourage everyone to go to our website, especially for the upcoming events, and
Please.
to see what's possible for you to attend.
They're filling everybody what's going on.
Well,
We're having the giveaway
Saturday
workshop Saturday.
Saturday is the workshop for Mark Creighton to give away Varroa treatment stuff. And then the 22nd, there's the Massaro
And that-
Farm
And
workshop.
that's at Lockwood Farm, right?
That's right, in Hamden. Right.
And that's an event where, you know, you come, so it's in the chat. So download it now. It's a PDF because once we go offline, you won't have it. And I'll, the event Saturday is a pick up and leave. All right, so that's all it's going to be. So here's the book. All right, and let me get to the contents of it. So I explain in here how a split works, what walkaway splits are, what right queen cells look like. How do you know when your queen cell is right? So and so, virgins in the parent colony queen, dealing with the parent colony queen, choosing all these other things that affect factors in your swarms and all that. And I go through and I talk about Varroa, and I talk about you know, I want to get to some of the timing. There's a picture of a Varroa. Everybody wants to see that, of course. This is how splits walk away. Here's how a walk away split works, right? And I have nice pictures of larvae inside of swarm cells. This is a picture you saw earlier, our emergency cells. And then I talk about how to make a walk-away split during swarm season. That's a 50-50, and so on and so forth. You keep going on. I talk about ripe queen cells and how to harvest them and put them in colonies. So there's lots of stuff here that you can get information out of. And there's blank pages between where you can take notes. And then this is the one where I talk about what happens to the virgin queens and the parent colony queen, what occurs after a split, after a swarm, right? So there's lots of information in here. You have it for free now.